Okay, I might regret this, but I'm in bed because that's where I want to be and that's where I'm most comfortable, okay? Don't judge me. Anyways, hello Treacle. Welcome to another episode of Marissa Unfiltered, the podcast with me, Marissa. I'm coming to you from the comfort of my bed. I'm not tucked in, I'm just like sitting on top of it. So I don't know why that's relevant. But anyways, that's where I feel comfortable today. So here we are. I feel all over the place. So in advance, I sincerely apologize. Actually, no. Why do I keep apologizing? I feel how I feel and that's fine. I hope you're all doing well. I'm very tired and a little bit cranky. I'm a little bit of a cranky baby right now, I'm not gonna lie. But I'm sure I'll be fine as we go on. Because sometimes I start out feeling just like really anxious. Like I struggle really bad with my anxiety. But sometimes I start and I'm like, oh, I have to record. I don't really feel up to it. And then as it goes on, the anxiety just disappears. And I get really into it. So that's why sometimes I do appreciate doing this, because it kind of helps me to, it gives me an outlet for some tense feelings that I might have sometimes. Anyways, completely irrelevant. I hope you're having a great week wherever you are in the world. I hope that the gays, theys and thems are especially having a great time, because this is the first episode during Pride Month. So I hope those people only, I'm joking, especially, are doing good. I think there's a lot of crazy stuff going on around like pride related things. A lot of bigots are really showing their asses, and that sucks because I just don't understand it. See, I can't even say hopefully it's not affecting anyone, because there's like literal legislation that is going to be affecting people. So it feels a bit silly to say that. Anyways, let's talk about some news, shall we? First thing I'm going to talk about really quickly. I'm not gonna stay on this topic for too long. I just wanted to mention it to reaffirm my dislike of this person. And that, of course, is Jared Leto. And I went on about him for like an hour. I don't think it was an hour, that episode. It was quite short. But anyways, I did a whole thing about him and his cult. And now he's climbing up walls for some reason. He was filmed climbing up the side of a hotel in Berlin. And I don't understand why. He just... I can't stand him. And the reason why is because I think he tries really hard to be a certain type of person, to come across as like cool and mysterious, and he's just not that. And I get a really bad vibe from him. And I like to think that I'm a very perceptive person. I don't know what it is. Him, Tom Cruise, John Travolta, who else? There's a couple of other people. I just get really bad vibes from them. I've literally never liked Tom Cruise or John Travolta, like ever since I was a kid. And Jared Leto makes me feel the same way. There's just something about his face, his aura, that just, I sense evil. Anyways, he's climbing up the side of a building in Berlin, and some people think it's a prank because there was some famous TikTok prankster like really close by. So a lot of people are speculating that it might be some kind of publicity stunt. Good thing he didn't fall. Anyways, moving on. I want to talk about Drew Barrymore as well, because earlier this week, and this is all happening on Thursday, by the way, I procrastinated, and so this is being recorded on Thursday instead of Wednesday or Tuesday. So anyways, earlier, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, earlier this week, Drew Barrymore she was trending on Twitter because allegedly she said that she was glad, she can't wait, not glad that she was dead, but she said that allegedly Drew said, I can't wait for my mom to die, or something along those lines, and it was trending. And literally maybe yesterday, she came out and she was like, why are these tabloids putting words in my mouth? I never said that. So Page Six, which is a tabloid kind of akin to TMZ, I think, they're kind of unscrupulous about their without scruples when it comes to their journalistic abilities. So they published an article titled Drew Barrymore admits she wishes her mother Jade was dead, and then in quotes, I cannot wait. And then obviously all the other tabloids and blogs took that and ran with it without actually verifying whether or not Drew actually said that. And when it spread on social media, a lot of people were sympathizing with Drew based on this fake article because of Drew's childhood. She had like a really difficult childhood. She was a child actor. She was famous since she was like under 10, and her mother was her guardian and allowed her to be in a lot of adult situations from a really young age. And Drew has even admitted to taking drugs when she was like 13 years old. So a lot of people were side-eyeing her mum. Still to this day, actually, a lot of people criticize her mum for the childhood that Drew had. Obviously, like today, she's really successful. She has the Drew Barrymore show, and she is kind of touted as a success story of child actors who kind of went off the rails, but then was able to turn it around and live a healthier life. And she still talks about her struggles on her show. I don't watch it religiously, but I've seen clips of her talking to different guests, and she'll bring up stuff about her childhood. So it's not something that she's ashamed of or that she's trying to hide. And to my knowledge, I wasn't aware of any kind of beef between her and her mum. So I think a lot of people were kind of lumping Drew in with Jeanette McCurdy, who wrote the book I'm Glad My Mom Died. If you don't know, Jeanette was a child star. I think she's like 30 now or 31, but she was a child star on Nickelodeon, and she's been very vocal about her experiences as a child star who was abused, early life experiences of being in situations that were facilitated by her mum. And she's made claims in her book that her mum also participated in abusing her and allowed other people to abuse her. So clearly, I feel like what's happened is people either read the Page Six headline, an article, and then blogs kind of take that and run with it and, remove all context. And so people just see this headline of Drew Barrymore says that she can't wait for her mum to die, and then everybody just assumes, oh, okay, it's okay, Drew, like, we get it, girl, your mum's a bitch. Like, I think that's what's happened, and obviously that's not true, and that doesn't seem to be Drew's experience. So she had to come out and hit back at the article. And she said, to all you tabloids out there, you've been fucking with my life since I was 13 years old. I've never said I wish my mother was dead. How dare you put those words in my mouth? And she posted this. She posted a video on her Instagram page, and that's kind of the gist of what she was saying in the video. Also, I think again, people were just kind of making these leaps, because when Jeanette McCurdy was promoting her book, she actually went on Drew Barrymore's show, and they had like a really deep heart to heart moment, and they both expressed certain things about their childhood. So I think that's what's happened. But again, it's just another case of people just jumping to conclusions and not fully vetting the information that they're consuming. And I'm guilty of this as well. Like, I'm trying harder and harder to be more aware of the information that I retain, and to not just take something that someone says on social media or that a blog posts and then just accept that as the gospel truth. But I think a lot of people do that, and then we're in this situation where again people have to come out and be like, no, I never said that, that did not happen. And I literally had to, it was only when I searched Drew Barrymore that I saw, because I saw the thing and I was going to talk about it, and then I wanted to get some context and also look at, like, because there's loads of stuff about her childhood that I just don't remember or I just don't know. So I googled her, and the first thing that comes up is obviously she did not say that. But that's not going around the internet as fast, and it's not spreading to as many people as the first headline did. So a lot of people are out there probably thinking, oh, Drew wants her mom dead, which is really sad. And if she doesn't have a problem with her mom, and her mum kind of allowed a lot of the abuse that she experienced to happen, then I don't think as strangers we are in the position to criticize her or to even criticize her mum, really. I think, yeah, you can have an opinion on her mother, but to kind of cheer along with a fake headline to say like, yeah, I can't wait for her to die, I think that's a bit much. But yeah, that's just kind of my opinion. I feel like there's so many stories of this happening, and it's so easy for it to happen on social media, especially on Twitter, where anybody can verify themselves as a journalist, quote unquote, and say whatever the fuck they want. It's the same on Instagram, as, to be honest, just all social media. You can present yourself in whatever light you want, say whatever you want, and then just go about your day. That's very scary. That was just my 2 cents on social media shenanigans and, I don't know what, terrible parents. The other thing I wanted to talk about, well, I don't really want to talk about it. In the UK at the moment, I'm aware that I have like European listeners, at least based on Spotify data. That might be a little bit inaccurate, but I don't know. But I know people outside of the UK listen, so I will give context when I'm talking about UK based things. So in the UK right now, one of the most famous presenters, who's like a long-standing, he's like a piece of furniture, he's been around for so long on TV, he recently stepped down. Philip Schofield, he stepped down from his role presenting ITV This Morning, which is like a kind of tabloidy news show, kind of in the vein of Good Morning America or BBC Breakfast. And he stepped down due to allegations of, I don't even know what the allegations and the way that they're presenting it, but basically 3 years ago he came out as gay, and at the time it was rumored, the rumors have been there for a while about, you know, him liking men. But then that alone is no one's business really, except Philip has been married to a woman for like at least 2 decades, and he has kids that are in their early 20s. So rumors about him being in a relationship with a man was definitely everywhere, and it was definitely sensationalized. So after that, he came out. He's like, I'm gay. Everyone was really sympathetic. Like, thank you so much. You're so brave. We love you for coming out. Well done, Phil, for living in your truth. Now, fast forward 3 years, and he's being accused of grooming the person that he was in a relationship with at the time that he came out of the closet. And allegedly, this person was underage. Well, it's alleged that he had a relationship with this person when he was underage. And allegedly, the person is under some kind of super injunction, so they're not allowed to speak. And I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that, but that is literally all over social media. So anyways, everybody on TikTok is talking about it. But those are the allegations, and a lot of people are accusing him of grooming, of child grooming. And the reason why they're accusing him of child grooming is because he knew this boy since he was like a preteen. He's known this boy for a really long time. And then obviously, like, later on, he pops up in a relationship with this person. And it's also being alleged that Philip got this boy. He's a man now, he's over 18. But at the time when it's alleged that Phil kind of greased the wheels in order to get his younger lover a role at ITV. And a lot of people are accusing people at ITV, including Holly Willoughby and other staff members, of knowing about this. I don't know. That's just the accusation that's out there. And a lot of people are speculating, like, how did they not know about this? Because it's like all the kid is right there. He's working on the show. There's pictures of them all like hanging out, kikiing, having fun. So that's what a lot of people are saying. So Phil quit his job. I don't know why I'm calling him Phil, because I didn't even watch the show. I don't even know if he likes being called Phil. Don't ask me. But Phil quit the show after loads of social media backlash. And also loads of pictures have been popping up with Philip and this boy when he was a boy, looking very cozy. And apparently Philip Schofield was like mentoring him. And also, to add to it, there's the fact that Philip Schofield's brother is doing time for crimes against children. I don't know the exact charge, but he's basically doing time for stuff that he did to a child. At the time when his trial was going on, Philip Schofield admitted to being told what happened, and then later on he basically like disowned his brother. And so there's loads of people just adding fuel to the fire basically, and kind of making comparisons between what his brother has done and also the things that he's being accused of. So that's like everything that's going on. But what I want to focus on, and what I think is really, it's kind of triggering for me, honestly. And what's triggering for me is the way that the media, the way that ITV and other media organizations are handling this. They're handling Philip Schofield with like kid gloves, and it's really upsetting because they're giving him all these opportunities to clear his name, to sit down in front of, sit with his mother who's like in a wheelchair and older, to look really sympathetic, like, oh, my mother's heart's broken because of everything that's happening with me. And he's being accused of some really serious things. And obviously it's just an accusation at the moment, but there were so many accusations made about, like, what's the other one? Jimmy Savile. So many accusations made about all these other people that turned out to be legitimate. Fucking Tim Westwood. I am waiting for the day that Tim Westwood gets his. And I hope that it happens while he's still alive, because in the case of Jimmy Savile, nobody actually got justice. because he was allowed to live his life in, you know, good standing in the country, in the media, with royals. And then it was only after he died that people actually started taking the accusations against him seriously. And it turned out a lot of people at the BBC knew what was going on and they just didn't say anything. And in fact, they actually helped cover it up. And so people are making leaps, or not even leaps, connections between the way Jimmy Savile was handled and now Philip Schofield. I think most of the responses that I've seen, it's just people don't want it to be another situation like that where way after the fact we realize that everyone at ITV knew about it and they covered it up, because then no one really gets punished and they get to go on living their lives. But it really is a masterclass in how systems in the UK rally around abusers and just terrible people at the expense of victims. And it's not even just in cases of child abuse, but that one is so obvious and so disgusting. It's also in cases of like bullying, and like bullying with the fucking Home Secretary was accused of being a bully so many times and nothing happened. Nobody batted an eyelid. People in the UK who are in power, they really do enjoy protecting abusers. And then after the fact, then everyone's like, well, how are we to know? Like the writing is on the wall. That's how people, you listen to victims, investigate. That's how you know. But yeah. And the reason why I say that is because fucking Piers Morgan and Jeremy Clarkson, who have been berating Meghan Markle for God knows how long, they are coming out in defense of Philip Schofield. Like, oh, this is a witch hunt. He's been through enough. Leave him alone. And then Philip expressed that he, you know, his mental health isn't in a good place. And then obviously these other, you know, powerful white men come out and they're like, oh, leave poor Phil alone. When Meghan came out and was like, hey, I really thought about killing myself because of all of the things that you guys said about me that was not true, and it really put me in a dark place. And then Jeremy Clarkson and Piers Morgan mocked her for that. The newspapers and the media corporations that they worked for just allowed them to do that. So yeah, people in the UK just really enjoy, they enjoy punching down and enjoy protecting people who should not be protected. And I've seen that myself. And yeah, this whole thing with Philip is just really triggering because of that. Just like how he's allowed to go and tell his story, quote unquote, everywhere, but the victim isn't allowed to say anything. Anyways, in lighter news, I was going to talk about Love Island because apparently it's back, but I have decided I actually blocked Love Island from literally every bit of social media. I blocked them and I muted the topics on Twitter. I don't want to hear anything about Love Island. I don't care. Okay? I don't care. And the reason why I don't care is because I think that show just like, I think I've talked about dating shows before, and the fact that the only one that I watch is First Dates because it's so wholesome. But shows like Love Island really make me never want to interact with men ever again. And unfortunately, since I am attracted to men, allegedly, I think for the sake of my future happiness, I should probably just like not watch that show. So there will be no Love Island recaps or updates. I don't give a shit. Sorry, Hans. But yeah. Also, the new Spider-Verse movie is out. Then what's it called? I actually don't know what it's called. It's something Spider-Verse. It's called Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and it's out now. I really love the first one, Into the Spider-Verse. I've seen that movie like 3 or 4 times. The soundtrack is amazing. Everything in the movie is amazing. The animation is beautiful. Mwah. The comedy is amazing. And by the way, I just did a chef's kiss. But yeah, it's amazing. So I am looking forward to seeing that one. I need to see it soon though, because I've already been seeing spoilers and I've had to mute a lot of people because they just keep talking about it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Also, another movie that can't wait to see, and I'm low-key being sarcastic, is Fast X or Fast 10. I don't know which it is. Is it like the iPhone? You know, iPhone X, iPhone 10. Which one is it? The 10th movie in the Fast and Furious series is out, and it's already surpassed a couple 100 million in the box office sales. Literally in the opening weekend. I need to have a word. I need to have a word with the people who are paying good money to go and see this movie. Why would you do that? Because now you're enabling Vin Diesel and co by just paying your money that you worked for or scammed. I don't know how you get your money, babe. To go and see this movie in the cinema as soon as it comes out. The reason why I'm upset is because I remember when the Fast 9 came out. Was it last year or the year before? I think it was the year before. But when Fast 9 came out, me and my friend were stuck in traffic for ages. I think it was like almost 2 hours. We were on the way to the traffic was unrelated to the movie, but on the way there we were stuck in traffic for ages. We hadn't eaten, nothing like that. We had a bunch of snacks, but then soon we ran out of snacks, ran out of water, needed to pee, and we're still stuck in traffic. And then we get there finally. We missed the first screening that we wanted to see, made it to the second one. Get there finally, no time to eat or anything, so we just bought food for like whatever food they had in the cinema. And then I sat through that fucking disgusting movie. Can you imagine being stuck in traffic for hours, not being able to get out and pee because it's in the middle of a packed motorway? And then you see the bit in that movie where Vin Diesel uses that stupid hook thing to like swing the car around because the bridge was broken. And then later on in the same movie, they went into space. I cannot tell you how upset I was. I was not able to suspend my disbelief far enough to sit through that. I was so upset. The only saving grace in that movie, in my personal opinion, was the fact that Han came back. And I think that's the only reason why I want to watch this other one. I don't care about the rest of them. Especially, I think The Rock actually ruined that the franchise a little bit for me. But also, they're getting a little bit, like every film, they're defying more and more laws of physics, and I don't know how much I can abide by that. I don't like the reason why I wanted to mention this, I'm rambling, but the reason why I wanted to mention this is because Vin Diesel recently said that they haven't discounted the idea of time travel in the Fast and Furious series. So they might do time travel in future movies. I think that's where they'd lose me, to be honest with you, because they kind of already did time travel, or they did flashbacks, which is basically time travel as far as I'm concerned. But they did that in the last movie, and that guy was kind of cute. The one who played young Vin Diesel, he was kind of cute, and he's Kiwi. Even better. But anyways, yeah, so they might do time travel, and I think that's where they'd lose me, because what they want to do, like when you're veering into Avengers Endgame territory, I think that's where I need to bow out and be like, okay, I cannot deal with this anymore. But maybe in the next couple of weeks I will watch the movie and let you know my personal opinions on whether or not I liked it. But again, I'm just in it for Han. Listen, Sung Kang, he is a beautiful man. Anyways, the other thing that recently came out that I'm really interested in viewing, but I'm not going to rush to anytime soon because of the subject matter. Amazon Prime recently released a documentary on the Duggar family. Those people, It's called Shiny Happy People, and it's digging really. I've seen some clips, I've seen some people talk about it on the internet, and they're really getting into all of the disgusting, creepy, immoral, illegal things that the Duggars have done. If you don't know who the Duggars are, they became famous for the TLC show. I think the first season was 16 Kids and Counting, then there was 17. So basically I think they have like 20 kids altogether. So they became like really famous for having loads of kids. They're fundamentalist Christians, and towards the end of their TLC career, I think TLC actually cancelled their show because there was a lot of abuse going on in the family. Not just like neglect from the parents because there's so many kids, and the parents basically did this thing where the older kids were responsible for the younger kids, so they actually didn't really do that much parenting. But also the eldest son is in jail for some very disgusting things that he's done to his sisters, and also sensitive material that he was in possession of, that not only did the dad know about, but the dad and the church helped cover it up. And then I think there was a sheriff, like a local sheriff, who was also involved in the cover up, but he was like a friend of the family. So yeah, they've done a lot of really heinous things, especially heinous. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to the documentary, but I might need to not watch it, not binge the whole thing, because yeah, it's a bit much. But it's on Amazon. If you're into culty or fundamentalist religion-y stuff, then check out the documentary on Amazon Prime. Yeah, I think that's it. I've rumbled on for like 40 minutes. So let's just get on to the reason why we're here today, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? And theys and them? Yeah, let's do that. Today, as you may have discovered from the title, we're talking about the controversial practice of rehoming adopted children. And this feels like a good time to give a trigger warning. In this episode, I will be discussing child neglect, abuse, and CSA. And because of censorship, because I'm going to put this on YouTube, I don't want to say what CSA is, but it's crimes involving children. So if that's triggering for you, I suggest finding another episode to watch. Listen to not watch. Why do I keep saying that? It's listen. Listen to the Forbes one, because I think that's one of my best in terms of taking the piss out of degenerates and just wayward people. So maybe I suggest listening to that one. Or maybe the one with Jared Leto, where I talk about his culty antics. I don't know. But yeah, this one's going to be a little bit heavy, so consider yourself warned. And it's not even a case of like, oh, it's in this section. I'm going to be discussing it throughout. So yeah, I'm sorry. But this has been in my head, and also I've seen this. There's a 60 Minutes Australia video on YouTube that I'm going to talk about, and I've seen it so many times, and it's even now popping up on TikTok, which is why I decided to do this one instead of any of the other things that I wanted to talk about. But yeah, also I'm going to mention family vloggers a few times, and those people are disgusting as fuck. I cannot stand family vloggers, but I'm going to mention them. I won't really elaborate on it too much because there is so much there, and there's so many of them, and it's a rabbit hole in and of itself. So I think I might do like a separate episode on that at some point, since it's been a staple of the online community since the early days of YouTube. And I actually didn't really know that until very recently. Like, since the start of YouTube, there's been family vloggers, which kind of makes sense, I guess. Lastly, the term rehoming, which I'm going to be using a lot, it's a contested term. So a lot of adoption advocates don't actually like using that word, but it's a word that is commonly used by families and is kind of in common lexicon. So I'm gonna use it, but just know that a lot of people don't really like using that word. When it comes to adoption of human children, it's a catch-all term for basically relinquishing parental rights of the adopted child. This isn't always legal, and according to the National Council for Adoption, which is a US organization, they consider the term demeaning and inappropriate to associate with a child. The legal term is unregulated custody transfers, or UCTs. But again, I'm using the term, and when I use the term in what I'm going to say from here on out, it's in quotes because that's literally what most people call it. And basically it refers to a family, usually an adoptive family, who circumvents the laws of their state, the child welfare system, and the courts, and abandons their child to another family without adequate legal protections. And again, towards the end, there's a case that I'm gonna talk about that's literally what happened, and that's usually how it goes. So let's get into it. For this first story, I'll link to an article in The Cut where I got a good amount of the information. The Cut is a magazine, like a news magazine type thing, and I got a good amount of information about the Staufers, who I'm going to talk about. Mika or Micah, and her husband James, I believe is his name. I didn't mention his name in this. I don't know why. So I knew of this story from years ago, and so The Cut basically just kind of confirmed a lot of the timeline of events. So I'm going to link the article because I literally just used it to confirm what I already kind of knew, and to make sure that I wasn't saying anything that wasn't true or to like sensationalize it. But I'm going to link the article in the show notes. And I recently just learned that the show notes actually do appear on Apple Podcasts as well. So you can look at them on Spotify or Apple. I'm not sure about any other platform. But yeah, and I'm sorry if you can hear background noise. It's kind of late in the day and I can't exactly tell neighbors to shut up. Anyways, I also looked at clips from their YouTube channels that were reposted from other users because Micah actually deleted the family channel when all of this blew up. So I had to, piece things together or refresh my memory from clips that were reposted. I won't link those though, because you can just go on YouTube and type in Micah Stauffer and all of it will come up. And I'll link the NCFA blog about the Stauffers as well, because they covered it and they gave a lot of legal context around adoptions and basically what the Stauffers did and how it's wrong, and they are looking at it from a perspective of adoption advocacy. So I'll link all of that. Anyways, in May of 2020, a YouTuber by the name of Micah Stauffer and her husband went viral for all the wrong reasons when they made a video to explain why they rehomed their adopted child. I'm surprised people didn't show up at their homes with torches and pitchforks, because the video pissed a lot of people off and even escaped the YouTube bubble into mainstream news. So it got to the point where it wasn't just YouTubers talking about it and YouTubers, getting on their case. It was literally everybody. So she was a YouTuber. she was like a blogger person beforehand, but they had a family, the Stoufers had a family channel where they chronicled their life with their 4 young children. Between 2 channels, which one of them was Micah's personal channel and the family channel, they had over 1 million subscribers. And then at some point later on, the husband started a channel that was centered around cars, and I believe he gained a lot of subscribers from that as well. So they were quite popular on YouTube. In the video that ruined her reputation and contributed to the further decimation of the family vlogger reputation, Micah and her husband, they're sat in front somewhere in their home with somber expressions on their faces, and honestly, they look like they're about to make an apology video, like one of those cringy YouTube apologies for being like racist or homophobic or something. But no, they made the video to explain that they had to give back the 5-year-old boy they adopted from China. For more than 3 years, the Stoufers documented the process of adopting the boy they named Huxley on their family vlogging channel, from which they gained millions of views over the years and hundreds of thousands of dollars through YouTube AdSense and brand deals. And there's no way to confirm exactly how much they made off of just Huxley content alone, let alone like the whole family vlogging thing. But I'm willing to bet the little that I have to my name that they made millions from doing that, between AdSense and brand deals that they had as well, some of which was centered around Huxley. Micah did have a following on YouTube before she even had kids. She was a wellness blogger before she met her husband, but as soon as they started having kids, they started a family channel, and their most viewed videos were about them trying to extend their family through adoption. The Stoufers wanted loads of kids, and after having 4, they started thinking about adoption because it was something that they really wanted to be a part of their story. And that's what they claimed. I think Micah was the one who said that. They wanted to adopt because it was something that they really want to be a part of their story, which is just a little bit weird in my personal opinion. And they were specifically interested in adoption of a child from Africa in the beginning. And this is a good time to mention that the Stoufers are both white people. They're white Americans from like middle America. And I have a lot of opinions about cross-racial adoption that I don't fully know how to articulate without sounding really unhinged. And I don't really want to get too much into it, although I will mention it a little bit later on. But I don't think that it's all bad, but I do know that there are a lot of cases of Black and Asian kids who are adopted into fully white families who make no effort to understand these kids' cultural needs and end up giving their kids all kinds of identity issues. And that's kind of where a lot of my views are centered around why it should be better thought out before you go and adopt someone from a culture that you know nothing about. It's also my personal belief that some people who choose to do cross-racial adoptions do so because of the novelty of having an exotic child in their otherwise milquetoast families. And, you know, they just want to jazz it up a little bit, just add a little bit of spice. And I genuinely believe that like way too many people adopt for those reasons. You know, they want the united colors of Benetton in their family, but they're ignorant as fuck and they don't understand that each of these kids from different places in the world have different needs. You know, especially if you're adopting them at an age where they already have somewhat of a cultural identity so they can speak the language or whatever it is. And also, like, if they're old enough, they're going from a situation where there's loads of kids, loads of people who look like them, speak like them, everything, and then they're just not in that environment anymore. That's just weird. But anyways, the Staufers decided to adopt, but instead of an African baby, they went with a Chinese baby instead. And in true family vlogger fashion, they documented the whole process on their YouTube channel. As you can imagine, their viewers became invested in the whole adoption thing, in them, in the future of the child. You know, like everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. I'm going to tune in with my popcorn to see what's going on. You know, what stage of the process are they in? So imagine how the viewers felt when these two made the video explaining why they gave the child back. And gave back is like, it's kind of simplifying things a little bit. At one point in the video, you can see them both get quite emotional as they're explaining that they could no longer go forward with the adoption because of Huxley's special needs. Not only were they aware of Huxley's special needs before the adoption, but they also specifically chose to adopt a child from China's special focus program, which is for families who want to adopt children with challenging medical conditions. No word on why they chose this route, but that's what they did. So when you adopt a child from China, there's different categories. There's, you know, the children, like infants or children with like very low maintenance kids. I don't even know how to describe it. And then there's the program, the special focus program, that is for children with complex needs. So they might have attachment disorders, behavioral issues. They might have things like ADHD or even physical disabilities. And the Staufers deliberately chose to adopt someone in that category. And with that in mind, any sympathy I have for them is capped. Not that I have any sympathy at all, but if any that I had for them in the beginning was capped, because they knew exactly what they were signing up for and they went ahead with it anyways. In one of the early adoption videos, Micah even said, let's just say there's 100 conditions. We're comfortable with 99 of them. So we're very, very open. And to that I say, if you're not comfortable with all of them, why would you choose that option? Because it's not like they list out all the conditions and then you get to pick from a menu which ones you're comfortable with or not. You pick the child and then you go from there. I'm giving it away because I don't have any sympathy for these two losers because they did their research, they were well informed, even joining groups with other adopted parents who had kids with special needs, and they even took Huxley's medical records to their family physician for advice on his medical needs. And the physician told them, you might want to reconsider doing this, yet they persisted. Micah even went as far as saying, if anything, my child is not returnable. So they fucking knew. They went to pick up the then 2-year-old Huxley and they named him Huxley. He's a Chinese baby, so obviously his name was not Huxley when they adopted him, but at the time when they went to pick him up, he was 2 years old and they renamed him Huxley. And of course, they made a whole video about him that gained over 5 million views. In retrospect, the video is cringy as fuck. I've seen clips of the video and it's so cringy. It's like the background music is one thing. It kind of gives me vibes of like a high school couple they're doing a little montage of all their best moments since they've been dating for 2 weeks. That's the kind of vibe the video gives me. The background music is cringy. the things that they were saying, the quotes, the whole thing was cringy. And obviously, they had their other kids in the video as well. So, Huxley was part of their family for about 3 years. And in that time, the Staufers had another biological child. So, after Huxley was placed in the home, they've adopted him, they signed the paperwork, they brought him from China. They had another kid after Huxley. And Huxley was at some point around then diagnosed with severe autism, and they were allegedly told that he could possibly be nonverbal and likely won't attend college. And to me, this is my opinion, I think that really fucked with them, and I think that that's when they were like, "Rah, we don't want to be responsible for this kid for the rest of our lives." Because, Americans love kicking their kids out when they turn 18. Some of them even before that. So, that's just my opinion though. After this, they made a video where Micah was seen to be upset, stating that it hurt. So, Huxley's diagnosis hurt, and that the Chinese adoption agency allegedly told them that Huxley had no developmental issues. They just said that he had a tumor on his brain, but nothing else. And that she was so hurt to learn that he could possibly live with them forever. At some point, he was also diagnosed with ADHD. But the good thing was he didn't have a brain tumor. So they were happy about that. By the way, the Staufers homeschooled all of their children. And I cannot help but think that Micah, who was responsible for the homeschooling and who was a nurse before her YouTube career, perhaps wasn't the right person to teach a child with special needs. Like, I'm not being funny, but a lot of these people who homeschool their children, they do it because they want to impress upon these children some fucking ridiculous dog shit ideals, and not because they care so deeply about the education that they're receiving. They just want to indoctrinate their children, in my personal opinion. I'm not accusing these people of doing that, but Micah was responsible for the homeschooling, and as far as I know, and as far as everything that I've seen, she doesn't have any expertise with children with special needs, especially a child who might have attachment issues. So maybe she wasn't the right person to be doing that. So they claimed that the agency lied to them about his developmental progress, that he didn't know the alphabet or basic words like the Chinese agency allegedly claimed, and that they also, the Staufers said that they weren't able to vlog when Huxley was around because he would just go into full-blown tantrums, and that they also said that he was extremely aggressive to the other children, their biological children. But it was at that point that they said that they put him into a preschool, and they also had in-home therapy, and they were able to continue vlogging. So it seems like it wasn't a massive issue because they were like, oh, this is the problem, here's the solution. So surely everything's fine, right? By the time they made the video in 2020, people were constantly questioning where Huxley was, because he had started appearing less and less in their videos over the years. So in the first year or so after they brought him home, he was always around, he was in everything. And then as he got older, it's like, where's Huxley? Instead of where's Wally, it was where's Huxley? What's going on? And he went from gaining over 5 million views in that one video where they went to China to bring him home, to not even a mention at all in their later videos. And people even started commenting on Micah's Instagram page asking where Huxley was, and using the hashtag justice for Huxley. So like, people were concerned, like, what the hell's going on? So that's why they made that video, the fateful video. They explained that Huxley's new mommy, I'm gonna say mommy, Huxley's new mommy. So they explained that Huxley's new mom was medically trained to deal with his special needs, and that they didn't say anything at first because they didn't want to jeopardize his transition into the new family. That's what they said. A lot of people were pissed at them, but they also had a lot of adoptive parents who were sympathetic because they felt like international adoption agencies falsified reports of kids with developmental issues. But the CEO of the National Center for Adoption and Permanency, which is another US agency, said that it's not necessarily that the agencies are lying, but that they don't know because a lot of these children are abandoned. So the agencies aren't able to tell what happened to them beforehand. And also they don't have the resources to dedicate to testing and monitoring each child. He also said that a lot of these agencies actually do try to get the correct information because they don't want to be sued by families who have issues with the kids. In the Cut article, they noted that a lot of the abuse and backlash was aimed at Micah. And I'm in no way saying that it's justified because they entered the decision as a couple. But I think that Micah received a lot of the hate because the fame came from her initially. She was the one who started on YouTube and had a good a good sized following before they started family vlogging. In the beginning, it was just her channel. Then she used her own fame to branch out into family content. A lot of the ads they took were just of Micah and Huxley, or Micah and, one of the other kids. And she was the one giving updates on things most of the time. She had the Instagram account. It seems like the channel was driven by her. She was the figurehead. And I think also women tend to get a lot of hate whenever children are mistreated, whenever they are involved in the mistreatment of children, because it's just this notion that all women should have a maternal instinct that prevents them from ever wanting to harm a child. But obviously we know that's not true. There's loads of monsters, and some of them even have kids. I don't know if Rose West had kids, but she's one of the most famous child abusers who's a woman, and she kind of used that to her advantage in order to get her victims. So, but I do think that's why Micah got most of the abuse. It was kind of like she was the kind of leader, or seemed to be the leader in a lot of these things, like the face of the channels and the face on the Instagram. It was her Instagram account. So I kind of see why she was the one who got a lot of the flack. So, and there's this one ad, it's just her and Huxley, and I think that they're hawking fabric softener or laundry detergent or something. So they really capitalized on having this kid. And so yeah, a lot of, even to this day, when people talk about the case, they talk about Micah Stauffer, not the Stauffers, or not Micah and James. It's literally mainly her. And yeah, I do think it's the fact that she's also a woman that's why she gets a lot of the hate. In the end, the local sheriff investigated the Stauffers and found that they didn't break any laws by rehoming Huxley. They also said that Huxley seemed happy and well taken care of in his new home. The Stauffers haven't been seen on their family channel since. So when this all kicked off, Micah was like, fuck this shit, I'm out. She deleted the family channel. I think she deleted her own channel as well. I can't remember. And right now, I'm not going to go look it up. But in terms of the legal process of dissolving their adoption, it's not clear whether the Stauffers actually went through the process as, with lawyers and the original agency and other local authorities. We have no idea if they did that or if they did informal rehoming. I didn't put this in my notes, but I was watching another video that claimed that Huxley actually wasn't placed into forever home, as they like to say. Apparently he was actually just placed into like the foster system. So like, more than anything, I hope he's good. And yeah, funnily enough, they actually aren't the only YouTubers who caught heat for like rehoming or cancelling an adoption of a foreign child. Another YouTuber by the name of Nikki Philippi, or Philippi, I don't know, Nikki Philippi, she also did family vlogging. She made a video in 2018 letting everyone know that she's no longer planning on adopting a Thai child because they wouldn't be able to film with the child and include them in social media posts. So she was like, what? I can't, this is my baby. I can't film with my baby. Fuck that. You can take the baby back. I don't want it anymore. Their story is slightly different than the last couple's due to the fact that Nikki and Dan, that's her husband, they cancelled the adoption before the child was even placed in their care. And I don't think they even met the child. They just like picked him out of a catalogue and was like, I want that one. And they were going through the process and then they were told. Anyways, the video is actually still up on YouTube, but the comments are turned off. And if you Google Nikki Philippi, not Google, if you YouTube Nikki Philippi, you can find it. So I watched it. I had ad block on, so I don't know if they're still running ads on it. And I wasn't going to turn my ad block off just for that bullshit. But the video's still up and you can watch it if you want to. The way they started the video is so awkward. Honestly, the whole video is really awkward. They started it again as if they're about to apologize for doing a racism, and I don't understand. It's like, hi guys. Lots of sighs and lots of like awkward movements. It's just very weird. But they explained that the agency they were working with were aware of their social media presence, and I think she said that they followed her on Instagram or something, and they told the Philippines, that's the agency, that they wouldn't be allowed to post about the adoption on social media for 1 year after they've adopted the child. They had already been posting their adoption plans, but the agency told them to stop. Like, you need to stop doing that. What the fuck's going on? This is a child we're talking about. The agency were like, can you please just like stop posting about this child that you haven't even met yet? It's a minor. What's going on? And they were like, nah fam, that's our kid now. We brought the kid here. We bought him fair and square, because money does change hands when it comes to adoption. So technically they're kind of buying a child. So they were like, we can exploit him however we want. And then the agency's like, nah, fuck you, goodbye. That's just like me kind of reconstructing what I assume happened in that conversation. They didn't exactly say that. I'm just assuming that's what they were thinking. They explained that in Thailand, this is the Philippines, by the way, in the video. They explained that in Thailand, there's a law stipulating that adopted children aren't allowed to be filmed until a year afterwards. And people were really pissed off again. They accused the Philippines of adopting the child for all the wrong reasons. And yeah, it was that was it. But actually at the time, so this video was published in 2018, and they actually didn't start getting a lot of heat for it until 2020, when the Micah Stauffer thing kicked off, and also something else happened with the Philippines that I'll go into. But based on the video of them explaining it, I understand why people felt like they were being selfish. They came across as people who did not care about setting any boundaries for their children. As far as I know, they have one biological child, and they seem like one of those family vloggers who think it's okay to showcase their child like literally every waking moment from sun up to sundown. Basically, the issue with the whole 1 year no social media thing is, in Thai law, it's meant to protect the children from being plastered across social media before the adoption is finalized. And in Thailand, it takes 1 year for the adoption to be finalized. So you bring the kid home with you, and then there's like different processes that take a year, and then at the end of it, you're like, congratulations, handshake, fist bump, you have a child. They're yours to keep. The Philippines didn't seem to be sympathetic or understanding of this rule or why it was put in place at all. They seemed very whiny about the whole thing. In their words, in their own video, they also did not seem to understand why some agencies required them to undergo a psychological evaluation before being allowed to adopt a child. And they spent a lot of time complaining about how many hoops they had to jump through in order to adopt a child, including how much money they had to spend. And honestly, I don't know what to say about that. The video's there, you can watch it for yourself. But they seemed like whiny little babies to me. The Philippines also came under fire in 2021 for putting down their healthy dog because they claimed that it was dangerous and bit their son. And so they put the dog down, and people were again pissed off. I believe the reason why they were criticized was a lot of people were saying that instead of putting the dog down, instead of euthanizing the dog, it should have been trained or rehomed, which is very ironic that they're advocating for rehoming of a dog, considering the topic that we're talking about right now concerning children. But they were like, why would you do that when you could just like actually train the dog or give it to another home or take it to a shelter or something that would actually want it more than you do? Again, a lot of people accuse them of milking the whole dog incident for clout and attention, because they did a whole photo shoot with the dog before they sent him off to the big farm in the sky. They had like loving pictures of him with the child that he allegedly bit with them. And they were like crying, and they made a whole video about it, loads of Instagram posts. And so people were like, oh, so you just use the dog for clout and then you put him down? Wow. And then when that all happened, then a lot of people started criticizing them and comparing the fact that they cancelled the adoption several years earlier and just saying that they're like terrible people. The Philippines complained about the long drawn out international adoption process as well. But the thing is, in the US, it can take anywhere between 6 to 18 months to complete an adoption. And this includes a home study where they come back and look at your home to see if it's fit for a child. They talk to you, they do background checks, all of that kind of stuff. This is compared to roughly 6 months in the UK. And the home study is done before the child is placed in the home. And then there's like supervised visits that happen for up to 6 months after the child is placed in the home. I'm assuming that this and the cost played into their decision to adopt a child in China instead of trying to adopt one in the US. The most common cases that I've seen of adoptions being legally reversed by a court, they cite 3 main things. If the parents change their minds because before the final documents are signed, if the adoptive parents change their mind before the documents are signed. And the third is if the child, and this is usually only in cases where the child is old enough to speak for themselves, if the child asks to be placed back with their biological family, and, you know, assuming there's no issues with the biological parents. But this one is really rare because once the bio parents relinquish their parental rights, they have just over a month, I believe it's like 45 days or something, to ask for it to be reinstated. And then after that, everyone's fucked. So if they give their kid away, and then I'm being really crude about this because I have this tendency to try and make light of very difficult things. So I'm not making light of this because I think it's funny. It's because it's a very difficult topic to talk about. But if someone decides to give their child away and they're like, I don't want to be a parent anymore They literally have 45 days to change their mind. After that, it's not happening. If you're looking to adopt a healthy infant in the US, it can take anywhere between 2 and 7 years. And infants and toddlers make up the most adopted children. Older children are often placed in group and foster homes. So that's just a little sad fact that I learned while I was doing this research. So a few years ago, I watched a 60 Minutes Australia video where they investigated informal rehoming of adopted children. And that video changed me. So simply put, there are online groups, websites, and all sorts of like chat rooms where adoptive parents can just sign their rights away to someone else without doing any kind of background check into the new family their child will be placed in. Maybe, and this is just me talking, maybe they're employing the same background checking methods that one creepy sperm donor used that we talked about in that one episode, where he just uses gut instinct and a quick swipe of their Facebook page, but they don't actually look into they literally just it's like Facebook Marketplace. They message someone saying, hey, I like that coffee table you have, can I have it? And then the parents with the kids are like, sure, come pick him up. And that's it. Like, it's literally that informal sometimes. It's important to note that a lot of the people who flock to these groups in order to re-adopt a child, they do so because a reputable adoption agency would not place a child in their care for a host of different reasons. Even on sites like the NCFA and the NCA, which I mentioned in the beginning, recognize that a lot of child predators use these groups to adopt children so that they can abuse them. And this is where it gets really heavy, and I'm gonna talk about specific cases. So yeah, some people even describe the practices as child trafficking, especially because the authorities aren't involved in facilitating the rehoming, and there's no way of knowing what's going on with that child once they're sent off with strangers under the guise of finding their forever homes. I want to give a trigger warning if you plan on watching the 60 Minutes Australia video I mentioned. By the way, I love 60 Minutes Australia. They do a lot of like investigative things. So sometimes I'll just binge watch their videos on YouTube, and they're like good chunky videos as well, so you can actually like get stuck in, and they give a lot of information, so I recommend it. They have a video on Belle Gibson as well, actually, and they interviewed her, Belle Gibson, who I talked about I think in the last episode. But yeah, trigger warning if you plan on watching the video that I'm gonna link around the adoption thing, because it really shows the worst case scenario of what could happen to these children once they're rehomed. And they also film a rehoming, and when I say rehoming, I'm using air quotes, by the way. There's this auction thing where it's like a pageant and the kids have to model, and the prospective parents are sitting there and they're like, I want that. It's creepy. It is creepy. So if you're going to watch it, trigger warning. Families who have biological children and decide to rehome their adopted children really do show themselves as being disgusting, self-serving pieces of shit. Because, like in the case of the Staufers, they would not treat their biological children in the same way that they treat these adopted children. They literally treat them as nothing more than accessories, like a designer dog, if you will, or a designer bag even. The reason why I say this is because these people often claim that the reason why they can't care for the children they chose to adopt is because the children have developmental or behavioral issues. However, oftentimes, especially when it comes to behavioral issues, these manifest themselves because these children have been through hell. And it's often as a result of the neglect and abuse these children face before they were adopted. Even the fact that they might have been placed with another family or may have been placed in foster care can add to the trauma. They develop attachment disorders that manifest as behavioral issues, and then they're blamed and discarded as a result of it, which adds to the trauma. From what I've seen, these groups truly do operate as child trafficking rings. A case that was widely reported at the time: a couple by the name of Nicole and Calvin Eason were allowed to adopt countless children over the decades through the informal readoption process. And it's not even this grand process. You literally message someone on Facebook and it's like, hey, I want your kid, and then they sign a paper and like bang, that kid's no longer with their adopted family anymore. The thing is, the Easons are not nice people at all. In fact, they are dangerous child predators who subjected the children in their care to horrific abuse. And I use the term care very loosely. Allegedly, they would use the children as cheap labor. They'd walk around in their birthday suits, the Easons, and they also made the children sleep in bed with them in the nude. A couple of the kids who were placed in their home actually said that that's what happened. So it was multiple kids. According to Reuters, they rehomed a 16-year-old Liberian girl from a family who no longer wanted her. And within days, this girl went missing. So the Easons, whose own children were taken away from them by the state, and the police even filed a report where the police officer who took the youngest child into care stated that they had severe psychiatric problems as well as violent tendencies. And that's not the kid who has that, it's the Easons. There is no way these people would have been able to adopt a child legally. Once the 16-year-old girl, whose name is Quita, was placed in their possession, the Easons packed up their shit and took the girl and left town. Not only did they leave town, they left town with Quita, and they invited a armed robber friend of theirs along for the ride. They left behind 2 dogs that were chained up in their mobile homes. So if they're treating dogs like shit, you know they don't care about kids. In one of these groups, the adoption groups, the chat rooms and whatnot, Nicole Eason eloquently described why she wanted to adopt, saying, "It makes me feel important." So yeah, that's it. That's a quote. Like Huxley, Quita's adopted family claimed that she was violent and that their biological kids were scared of her. So that's why they had to rehome her. It's not because they wanted to, it's because they had to. They also said that because Quita was black, because she was from Liberia, and most Liberians are black, I'm assuming. But they said that because Quita was black and Mr. Eason was also black, she would be better suited to that household. Which makes me question why 2 white people decided to adopt a black child in the first place, if they even so much as thought that the child would suffer as a result of this. So they're like, yeah, black people, you all belong together. So Nicole Eason is white. What's the guy's name? I forgot his name, but Mr. Eason is black. The Pachalas, who are Quita's adopted parents, their names are Melissa and Todd Pachala, and fuck them. They assured Quita that the Easons were good people. They sat her down the night before and they said, "Here, look at this picture. These are the people you're gonna go live with. Do you notice the black guy? You two are gonna have some great times." Okay, they didn't say that, I'm assuming, but they did sit Quita down and they were like, "Yeah, this is where we're gonna send you. Don't worry though, they're good people." Even though they didn't actually know the Easons. from a fucking hole in the ground because they never met them. And they definitely did not do a background check on them. Eventually, the FBI were involved after Melissa tried to contact Quita like the day after they dropped her off. They're like, she's ringing them like, where's my child? I want to see how she's doing. So I'm just assuming they were like, yeah, they're babysitting her or so. Like, I don't. Anyway, she chose to stay in contact, and she called the day after they dropped Quita off, and there was no answer. She emailed, there's no answer. So she kept trying to call, and she got no answer. So she called the local police. Eventually, the FBI were involved because when the Pachalas reported Quita as missing, the police looked into the Easons, and they obviously found that the Easons had lost their own biological children and some other shady and illegal things that they'd done. And it was claimed that they left town to go and visit Nicole's mom. And so it took about 3 weeks for them to track down Quita in the end. And when the police found her, all they did was put her in a homeless shelter, and then the homeless shelter put her on a bus, gave her a bus ticket, and put her on a bus from New York to Wisconsin to go back to the parents who originally gave her up. No one was charged with any crimes relating to what happened to Quita, even though she was one of the kids who alleged that the Easterns made her do things that were inappropriate for children to be doing with adults. It would take at least a decade for the Easterns to be charged for their crimes against children. And if you watch the 60-minute video that I mentioned for like the 5th fucking time, there was a lady in that video who actually placed a child with the Easons because she was running this adoption group, and she placed a child with the Easons informally, of course, and then someone told her that what they were doing with these kids, and she went and got the kid back, and then she spent years trying to get the authorities to prosecute them. So yeah, I'll leave the Reuters article linked as well, because there's so much more information about what the Easons have done. I don't want to recount a lot of it. And also there's quotes from parents who rehomed their children, and they were just using really vile language to describe some of them. One of the parents posted in a group, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but they're like, I hate this kid, someone come and take him. And there was so many parents saying like, I don't want this kid anymore, who wants him, or pass this on to anyone you know that might want a kid. Like, that's how they were talking about these children. So I'll leave the article. I just didn't want to include some of it because it was hard enough for me to read, let alone repeat. So yeah, that's basically it. I'm not a parent, and I likely will never be one. I do have nieces and nephews, and as much as I love them, that's enough for me because kids are a handful. So when I was writing this, I tried very hard to keep that in mind, that I've never been solely responsible for the welfare and future of a child. So anything that I said, I was constantly reminding myself like, Marissa, you're being too harsh because you don't know what it's like to be a parent. Although I have babysat my niece and nephew for like an extended period of time, and it's very difficult. So I kind of get it, but I've never been responsible for, providing for them. From the cases that I've seen, I feel like a lot of the people don't actually consider the complex needs of the children that they're choosing to adopt. Some people adopt as some sort of status symbol, like, ooh, look at me, I'm a good person, I've adopted a child, I've saved a child from certain poverty and death, and that's why they do it. But then when they get the children home with them, they realize that they're not really cut out for the day-to-day needs of that child, especially if they have any kind of complex needs. And even with a healthy infant baby, there are bound to be issues, especially when cross-racial adoption and international adoption is involved. The fact that in the US and Canada, and probably other places in the world even, you can just pass your kid on to a complete stranger because you've decided that you don't want to deal with them anymore is really heartbreaking and infuriating. Literally anybody can decide today to make a Facebook group with pictures of kids and have creepy strangers, and I'm calling them creepy because who else would do this? Can just pick up a kid like they're flipping through an Argos catalogue, and that should not be allowed. It should never happen. Apparently, there's no way to track these adoptions because they're done in secret. Obviously, in the case, like with the case of the Eastons, they should not have been anywhere near a child, and they were able to adopt a child. And most of the cases I've read about, though, the adoptive parents have to sign a document where they're basically signing over their parental rights through a power of attorney document. And the new parents also sign that document, and it's notarized. So a notary has to come and witness this. So why not require all notaries to report on these types of cases? I don't know, like I'm just like spitballing because it's just like surely someone has to do something. And it seems like because literally everything is underfunded, child services and other local authorities don't really want to take on the work to break up these illegal adoption rings and enforce the laws that are actually in place to stop these kinds of cases. And even that is kind of loose because there's not that many laws in place even. And in the states where there are laws in place to stop this kind of thing from happening, there's not really much to actually enforce the laws. So there's no precedence set. So the police don't even know how to deal with stuff like this. I also believe that social media sites have a huge part to play in this. In the Reuters article, they investigated groups on Yahoo. I didn't even know that you can have Yahoo groups and forums. I didn't even know that was a thing. But I feel like I'm a little bit too young to know that that's a thing. So they investigated groups on Yahoo and Facebook, and they shared their findings with these companies. Yahoo was really quick to act, and they shut down the groups that Reuters brought to their attention. And, you know, they worked to shut down other groups in the same vein as well. However, a spokesperson for Facebook basically said it's a reflection of society, so, and all kinds of messed up things happen in society, so we're not going to shut this group down. That's what they said. And this was after the Reuters journalists made it clear that these groups are rife and rampant with exploitation of children. I've also seen cases where there's groups like this on TikTok and Instagram, and I think social media sites and organizations have to do a lot more to stop this kind of thing from happening. Children are at the mercy of adults. They have no rights, no autonomy. They literally need adults in order to function and survive, and they need to be protected. That's it. Like, I don't even know what else to say. They need to be protected. It's a failure of society as a whole that we are not doing more to protect children. It's a failure of society that we're literally just allowing kids to be placed with all kinds of weird, creepy strangers, and anything can happen to them. There were also, when I was researching this, there were also cases of children being informally rehomed and then they ended up being murdered by the new families and other stuff. It just, it boggles the mind that this kind of thing can happen. And yeah, I think that's it. That's where I leave it. Because I don't even know what to say. I was going to say that's it, bye. But I do have good news stories, so let's go straight to that. In today's good news, there's a new animal therapy not-for-profit organization that uses sheep to help kids and adults struggling with their mental health. And I love stories like this because it's so cute, it's so adorable. It lifts my spirits, especially after talking about that heavy thing that we just talked about. But of course, it has a punny name. It's a UK based not for profit. And for some reason, I don't know if I just like lost the ability to read or comprehend what I was reading, but I couldn't figure out where it's based. I just know that they're based in the UK. And it's called You Talk, as in you. You like EWE. Anyways, I chuckled at that one for a little bit, but yeah, it's called You Talk, as in, you know, the sheep. But basically, they use a special breed of sheep called the Valais Black Nose, and they're known for their calm and friendly temperament. They're described as being like dog-like, and they look really cuddly as well. They're one of those long curly haired sheep. I think they have like curly haired cows as well that are really cute and tasty looking. But yeah, so they they cite the organization, they cite animal therapy studies that show that it can have a positive physical and mental health benefits on people. And I'm sure anyone with a pet can attest to that. One of the founders, her name is Emma, she said, "We offer a safe space. If they want to talk to us, they can talk. But maybe they just want to play and giggle and laugh around with the sheep. We want to be there to help anyone that needs us. We've got so much belief that what we can do is going to make a difference." That was really, I hope that made sense because my brain is on the fritz. But yeah, so they believe that they can help people and make a difference, especially when it comes to mental health. And basically they host sessions on their farm, so you can come along and pet the sheep. It's kind of like a more personal petting zoo, I guess. And then you can talk to the owners of the animals if you want to. They also do a lot of stuff where they work with schools and other like educational environments to they bring the sheep along for the kids to pet them and whatnot, which is great because everyone in the UK is stressed, let me tell you. Also, I went to their website and they have a mobile service. So if you're based in the UK and you want to pet a curly, friendly dog-like sheep, you can book them and they'll come. And yeah, I think you have to have a garden or something for the sheep to actually be comfortable in, but you can do that. So I'll leave the link to the story and their website, and they have a YouTube, so if you want to look at the sheep, they're so cute. They have two little ones, I don't know what little sheep are called, but they have two little ones as well, and it's adorable. Lamb, is that what they are? I don't know. But yeah, so I'll leave the links to all of that in the show notes as well. And with that, that's it for this week. If you're still with me, I think this one's gonna be like, it's gonna be over an hour and a half, I think, for sure. If you're still with me, thank you as always for listening. Thank you for listening. This was a heavy one, so I definitely hope you take breaks if you were listening to this. Do something fun after, to bring yourself back to reality. Go watch some sheep videos. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple or YouTube, please follow and subscribe. I do actually plan on doing like video content on YouTube, kind of based around the topics that I talk about, like shorter formed content as well. But I'm just a girl with a mic, so I'm trying to figure out the logistics and everything. So it might take a while for me to get there, but thank you for bearing with me, and please rate and review. If it's on YouTube, leave me comments, because like I want to know if what I'm doing is good or not. And if you think I'm annoying, keep it to yourself, but if you don't, then let me know. And join me again next week, where I'll no doubt share something that is very fun and exciting to talk about with you. No, I think I will make next week fun, but it definitely will be riveting, so I hope to see you there. And as always, do not forget to go outside, drink water, shake your ass, and crush the enemy. Bye.